Hey, I've got a new book out. It's called Dollbloods. It's a nice piece of comedic fantasy, inspired by stuff like Terry Pratchett and Yancey Crowshaw's first novel, Mogworld. If you're looking for something new to read and feel like supporting a struggling indie, check it out. Links are in the description. It sucks to be a Command & Conquer fan. It's a venerated series that defined the real-time strategy genre as we know it, and told compelling stories, through the campy B-grade lens of 90s FMV sequences, which gave us this gem.
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
But its publisher EA did what it always does. Fucked it up. For the last mainline title, they tied it to DRM that was so bad you couldn't even play the single-player campaign, the reason most people played these games, without an internet connection. Then they let the series go dormant, only to then bring it back as a painfully slow and insulting mobile game. Beyond that, EA has been perfectly fine, resting on its laurels with the C-suite snorting cocaine while trying to understand why their live service efforts don't work, all the while letting the series remain dead, leaving the fans frustrated, and the RTS genre a barren wasteland. However, in their idiocy, they created an opportunity that has been seized by Tempest Rising, the new game by 3D Realms and Slipgate Ironworks, the guys behind Phantom Fury. An odd pairing for sure to have a go at filling the void left by Command & Conquer, with plenty of room for doubt given the reception of that game. But could they pull it off? Could they create a spiritual successor that could finally give the fans what they want, and give new players something to enjoy? Well, they did! The crazy bastards! Just like Bloober Team with the Silent Hill 2 remake, they did it! They pulled it off! They made one hell of a good RTS game.
Disengage. Unit ready. Construction complete.
Now, first off, this game is very blatant about being a spiritual successor to Command & Conquer, to the point some people would be forgiven for calling it a blatant ripoff. The GDI are now the GDF, the Global Defense Force, the Brotherhood of Nod are now the Tempest Dynasty, the Skrin are now the Veti, and Tiberium is now called Tempest. Despite wearing its inspirations on its sleeve, Tempest Rising does still offer an interesting story across its two campaigns with entertaining characters. It also functions as a distant prequel to Bombshell and the events of Ion Fury, adding to the lore of that setting and exploring the aftermath of its alternate history where the Cold War played out drastically differently. The art direction from those prior games is translated well as a style guide for this game, giving both factions distinct visual flavour, with the GDF being more muted, professional and high-tech, whereas in contrast the Tempest Dynasty are colourful, bulky and very low-tech. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a look at the Veti, a third alien faction that appears later in the game. I wanted to finish one campaign and get halfway through the other for this review, but I wasn't able to after accidentally deleting a save file, and I didn't have enough time to redo everything. As such, don't expect any footage with Veti units or from the later missions. Getting back on point, another obvious comparison to Command & Conquer is the game's cinematics. Before each campaign mission, we're treated to a mission briefing and a quick intro for the mission itself. The former serves to both give context and drive the story forward, while the latter is just there. The briefings play out just like the Command & Conquer ones, with characters talking directly to the player as an in-universe character. If you're playing GDF, then you're the commander. Plays the Dynasty, then you're the general. And they do the job of moving a simple narrative forward from both sides. The faction characters are distinct, and the voice actors do a great job, but they do lack the B-movie charm that Command & Conquer was known for.
Space!
The GDF cinematics feel like they're from a 90s military blockbuster, while the Dynasty ones are caked in 80s Soviet cheese. They're done in well-realized CGI with some expressive animations on the character models. It's the lack of standout flaws or the over-the-top acting that robs them of that B-movie charm. However, each cinematic has a point where it stops and lets the player ask questions, and these really help to flesh out the narrative and the factions from both perspectives. It's a small addition, but it's one that adds a lot to what otherwise is a very minor aspect of the game.
Requires them to wade through masses of red tape. Too many hands on the tiller. So, problem. The base is quite a ways into Dynasty territory.
Gameplay is simple and easy to get to grips with the GDF and Dynasty having distinct strengths, weaknesses, and strategies. The GDF are about rapid mobilization and efficiency. They strike a balance between quality and quantity and getting units into the field as fast as possible. Whereas the Dynasty, they're built around Zerg rushing and brute force tactics, building up cheap units in high numbers to act as cannon fodder while they get the higher tier ones ready to go. This is even reflected in how both factions build up their bases and gather resources. For instance, the GDF can field multiple construction sites and they'll finish them off in sequence, whereas the Dynasty will queue constructions and once they're ready, the player just picks a spot and they grow. The GDF has individual high volume trucks that harvest Tempest in big loads, while the Dynasty uses mobile rigs that utilize multiple small trawlers. These gather Tempest in a constant stream of small bursts.
Unit is under attack.
Both factions also come with their own unique abilities to give them an extra edge, and it's a lot of fun to experiment with these and find out how they can be exploited. With the GDF, I loved their build beacon. This let me establish heavily defended forward bases to help grind the enemy down, whereas playing as the Dynasty, I got the most out of their minefields to soften up enemy patrols. And both factions require different resources to utilize these. The GDF needs Tempest and Intel, a passive resource that requires the player take risks and use certain unit abilities, and build structures with specific upgrades to gather it in a meaningful quantity, while the Dynasty only needs Tempest, which adds more risk, since they tax your Tempest supply and impact your ability to train units and build up your base at a meaningful pace.
Unit lost.
However, it needs to be said that despite how intuitive or easy the controls are, I still found myself just selecting all of my units and throwing them in one big clump, and it worked. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, but it is somewhat disappointing that my go-to strategy for Age of Empires 2 when I was like 10 can still work. What wasn't disappointing though were the missions where I had to rely on a specialist. These brought back fond memories of playing a pirated copy of Warcraft 3, and I suspect Slipgate took inspiration from that game for these missions. During them, I had to play it safe, make the most of my specialist abilities, and keep a close eye on extremely limited resources. These were the most fun in both campaigns because they forced me not to fall back on brute force and actually use my brain.
You got a name?
The visuals don't disappoint either. The maps and units are packed with detail and it's easy to tell individual units at a glance, which make it easy to make snap decisions when you need to change up your strategy, and it ran like a bodybuilder soaked in oiled butter. Not once during my time with it did I notice the frame rate hitch or hiccup, nor were there any glitches, bugs, or curses from the witch Baba Yaga. Except for one. See, I'd played the demo for Tempest Rising, which lets you play the first two missions from both campaigns, and you can carry your progress over into the full game. Now, if you play the demo, do not do this. While your save file gets carried over, it will make the game think it's the demo, blocking progress and forcing you to start over. If you're on the fence about trying this game despite my praise, and you choose to check out the demo first, save yourself the frustration, and just start over if you decide to get the full game. I don't know if this has been patched or not, but it is annoying, so save yourself the stress.
Construction complete.
I'm glad I checked out Tempest Rising. This, alongside Starship Troopers Terran Command, have reignited my love of RTS games, and if you're a Command & Conquer fan, then this is an easy must-buy, and I hope that this is not the last we see of the Tempest War, and we hear news for a sequel or another spin-off soon. Personally, I'd love a tactical shooter in the style of Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, one where we get to play as Shelley Harrison's granddad, maybe.
Alex Molchalin, my son and I have a lot to discuss. Godspeed, General.
Another day, another dollar. It's good to finally have that video done. Sorry this has taken so long, but hey, better late than never. If you guys really enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate if you checked out not only the book link in the description, but also hit the like and the subscribe buttons. Both would help me out. Anyway, up next, I'm planning to take a look at the PC port of Stellar Blade. I've already played a bit of it, and let me tell you, I like what I see, pun intended and not intended, and I'm also planning to check out Hellas Arse and Total Chaos. I've also been dividing my attention among some other games that have caught my eye recently, so I might actually do a bit of a random showcase just to show off some of them and talk about them. Anyway, I've got all that and more coming up, so please stick around.